Hey, it's Zane. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you've had a great week and I appreciate you being here as always. Today I want to talk about multi-generational wealth. Do you want to leave a financial legacy for your family, your kids, your loved ones? This may be important to you, maybe it's not. For some people, it's not. For me, it is. So if this is important to you, I know that you'll get insight and value from today's video. So I want to share some facts and figures with you because I think it's really important that you have a vision of what the future could look like when you start embracing Bitcoin, an emerging decentralized asset, to not just accelerate and grow your wealth, but also to protect your wealth so that you can actually be financially self-sovereign. It's the only asset that enables you to do that, because every other asset out there is tied to the legacy financial system, the debt-based system, which essentially is a Ponzi scheme when you start to look in it in detail and you understand the history of money and you understand fiat currencies and the fact that ultimately every single fiat currency in history has failed. And that means that it's only a matter of time before the Australian dollar, the US dollar, the euro, all of those currencies will also fail. Arguably, they actually are failing already when you look at how the value of them is falling through the floor when you price them in hard money, sound money, gold and Bitcoin. And when you do that, you realize that all currencies are actually going to zero. It's just a question of how fast. And many would argue that the US dollar, even though it also will eventually fail, is probably the cleanest shirt in the dirty laundry. But if you're in Venezuela or Argentina or Lebanon or Turkey, countries that have experienced currency debasement at an accelerated rate, where the price of a loaf of bread doubles every week, and so people who are earning their income, their currency, their only mission is to just get rid of that local currency as quickly as they can, because they know that next week the price of everything around them is going to be double what it is this week. Those societies become absolutely decimated due to inflation. And this is why Milton Friedman, a prominent free market economist of the 1970s, he often referred to inflation as taxation without legislation, a dark, evil, sinister form of wealth destruction, purchasing power destruction by stealth. It's something that you don't notice. It is a very, very sinister form of theft that these centralized institutions over a long period of time have got very good at deploying throughout society to prop up the debt. But what they actually do is they deplete and decimate the purchasing power of savers. And when you can't save, that is a problem, because you cannot generate capital to be innovative, to create production, and you also lose complete confidence in the future, and you start realizing that having a low time preference, planning for the future, is virtually impossible. And we're seeing this now in our own country too. You only need to go and talk to a bunch of 20-something-year-old kids and ask them why it is that they're not thinking about buying a house or getting married or having kids or starting a family. And most of them will tell you that the reason why they're not thinking about that is because they're flat out taking care of themselves. And it wasn't always that way. It's just the way it is now. And essentially, because everybody's life is tied to a currency that has been absolutely corrupted. And it's happened gradually, and now it's happening suddenly over the past 50-something years since currency became backed by nothing. Up until 1971, currency was backed by gold, the US dollar as the reserve currency. It was redeemable for gold, and inadvertently all the other currencies, including the Australian dollar, were also backed by something tangible, in part being gold. But this is no longer the case, and when you have a currency where there is no checks and balances, there is nothing backing it, that is a problem, because it means that banks can issue mortgages without any deposit reserves required. And what does that do? It just creates more inflation. And what does that do? It just creates a growing wealth gap. And what does that do? It just creates a cost of living crisis. And what does that do? It just creates a two-tiered Hunger Games society where all of the middle class essentially eventually disappears and falls to the bottom. And what does that do? It creates a two-tiered Hunger Games society, which essentially is socialism. And this is where we are going at a very, very fast pace. Now, this isn't how I wanted to start this video, but I'm going to get into these facts and figures for you. But it's just the reality of where we are now. And this is why Bitcoin exists, because we need a decentralized form of money that is not run by a handful of unelected bureaucrats who make decisions behind closed doors that impact not just your life, not just my life, but the lives of everybody around us and society in general. And this is why we're starting to see the breakdown of society. And you may or may not see that yourself. But if you don't see it, I'd ask you to just, again, pay attention to people who are less well off than you, and you'll soon see that this basic human right, and this is a great example, to own your own home, to have food and shelter, when people feel like even that is a struggle in a country like ours, I'm sure you would agree that that is a big problem. Even if you're doing very well out of this system, you've got to know that as time goes on, as we start to see the fractures and the division in society escalate, you want to be thinking to yourself that all the money in the world is not going to protect you from what could ensue due to all of that. So I want you to just ponder that, because I know there's a lot of people out there who are in the top 5% who are having a wow of a time because they have been the biggest beneficiaries of inflation. But we're going to reach a point where this is going to lead to division and fractures in society, social unrest potentially, and we haven't seen that yet, but I believe that this is coming. And particularly now when you see the imposition of restrictions and constraints and limitations and dictatorship that is going on inside the banking system, this is a precursor to what is coming. This is a precursor to what is coming. And every single week I speak to people who are having trouble getting their money out of the bank and into a different form of asset that they control. And there's a reason for that, because the banks are panicking. They know that once money leaves the banking system and it ends up in a decentralized asset such as Bitcoin, it's not going back. And that is a problem. And this is what leads to bail-ins, bank runs. People are starting to get very uneasy about the future. People are rolling over their superannuation that is sitting in underperforming industry super accounts that is not only underperforming, but also has been the subject of cyber threats earlier this year, has also been the subject of collapse. A major industry fund called First Guardian collapsed just 2 or 3 weeks ago. You can look this up for yourself. And of course they know that the goalposts and the rules are being changed on their superannuation and how that is being taxed, and the proposals that are forthcoming regarding all of that, and everybody's feeling uneasy because of it, because nobody likes to be told to do something in a certain way and then they follow those rules. and they do it diligently over a long period of time, and then all of a sudden at the 11th hour, the rules get changed, not to suit them, but to suit those who created the rules in the first place. That is a problem, and this is why people are getting uneasy. This is why every single week I talk to people from all walks of life who are wanting to start getting a meaningful part of their financial life into Bitcoin, into the ultimate decentralized asset where they are now in control of their wealth. No counterparty, no permission required. So if you need to book a call with me, I know it'll be the best 45 minutes to an hour that you'll spend on Zoom next week. Don't sit on the fence, just book a call with me. You'll get tremendous value from it. Just go to the reviews on my booking page and you'll see the kind of clarity and confidence that people get from having a session with me in terms of the next best simple steps for them to onboard into Bitcoin or to level up if they're already in it. So, how do you create a financial legacy? Now that I've gotten that rant out of the way, and let me know what you think about all that. Do you feel uneasy right now? Are you feeling the walls closing in? Are you feeling that things aren't quite right? Are you feeling that things aren't quite as they used to be? What do you think about the next generation? What is the chance of them being able to live a happy, comfortable, prosperous life? What are the chances, unless they get a leg up from you or inheritance? Or maybe they'll be the next Elon Musk or the next Jeff Bezos. Maybe they'll be that, and then they'll be fine. But when we're talking about most people, you and I both know that things aren't great. Things are not great. And this is why Bitcoin is here. This is why I keep ranting and raving about it. This is why I encourage you to do 10 hours of study as a bare minimum to get your head around what this is. Then take action. Take action, because when you take action, guess what? You're going to learn more. And then you're going to learn more. And then you're going to deploy more capital. And then you're going to realize, holy shit, this asset is like nothing else. I need to take this seriously. Then you're going to rotate out of legacy assets that are completely centralized and completely exposed into Bitcoin, so that you are autonomous, detached, self-sovereign, and you have so much optionality that nobody else, no matter how wealthy they are, is going to have, who refuses to pay attention to this asset because they think they're above it, they don't need it, they've done really, really well in the debt-based legacy system. But there's going to come a time where even those people, they are going to need to flight to Bitcoin. Believe me. And I talk to people, again, who are very, very wealthy in the legacy system, and these are the smart ones, these are the pioneers that are front-running everybody else, that are saying to themselves, hold on a minute, this cannot continue, this is unsustainable, I can see what's coming, and so I'm going to get on the Bitcoin life raft while I still can. Because there's going to come a time when you're not going to be able to do that. And this is why time is of the essence. So let's close out this video with some numbers. And this is really interesting stuff. Now I'm going to paint a scenario for you with $100,000 as a deployment into Bitcoin. Now obviously not everybody has access to $100,000 worth of savings or capital. A lot of people I talk to, they have hundreds of thousands of dollars in their superannuation fund, and they've got 10 to 15 years until retirement. And so what are they doing? They're going, hold on a minute, I've got an opportunity here for the next 10 years, maybe up to 15 years, to rotate that underperforming industry super fund, which is only going to deliver to me 8 to 9 to 10% maximum, because that's what it always has done, and that's what it always will do, plus all the fees that you have to pay out as well to whoever is managing your money and doing such a wonderful job of that. it's not even close to keeping up with inflation. So if you're one of the few that are waking up to this, you're going to say, hold on, there's an enormous opportunity cost to me to retain my life savings, my retirement savings in a fund that somebody else controls, that is exposed to counterparty risk, that is only doing 8%. And so if you feel uneasy about that, and you know that the opportunity cost of leaving your money in that situation is going to be multi-generational wealth, why on earth wouldn't you at least pay some attention and think outside the box and do a little bit of homework on what the alternative option is? Now, those who are awake, guess what they're doing? They are rolling over their underperforming industry super fund into a self-managed super fund where they are in control of their retirement savings. And then what are they doing? They're making a meaningful allocation to Bitcoin, and then they're taking it into self-custody. They're taking it into self-custody, which you can do and remain compliant. So let's look at that. Imagine if you had $100,000 sitting in your superannuation fund. Most people have a lot more than that, but let's just say, for the sake of discussion in this exercise, we're talking about $100,000 here, or in savings, or in a rental property, or sitting in the bank, or wherever it might be, in a share portfolio that is also doing 7 or 8%. And you go, you know what, I can put this $100,000 into an emerging asset that is performing at 50 to 60% growth per year instead of 8. What would the difference be in 10 to 15 years' time? And then I'm going to share with you what this could mean to your financial legacy. But $100,000, if we look at Bitcoin's growth rate of 50 to 60%, the last 7 years it's done 59, then, and you put that $100,000 into a reverse CAGR calculator, the link's in my show notes to the reverse CAGR calculator, you put $100,000 in the top, and then you put 50% in the second line, and then you put 10 years in the third line, you're going to come up with $5.7 million in 10 years. $100,000 at 50% CAGR, compound annual growth rate, in 10 years is $5.7 million. And guess what happens if you leave that $100,000 performing at 7 or 8%? It's going to be worth just under $200,000 in 10 years. So which would you prefer, $200,000 in your retirement account or $5.7 million? That's the opportunity cost of leaving it in an underperforming asset class that's doing just 8%, not even close to keeping up with real inflation. But here's what's really fascinating, and here's how this turns into multi-generational wealth. Imagine you got to that $5.7 million, and then just imagine that you withdrew $1.7 million, paid some taxes on it, you decided to bank the rest, whatever, fund your gold Amex card or whatever it might be, and you decided, you and your partner, you wanted to go and enjoy life, go on some adventure, travel for the next, 5 to 7 years, as an example. Just say you did that. So you took $1.7 million off the top from a $5.7 million balance in 10 years' time. Here's what's really, really interesting about this, and this is the power of compounding, the eighth wonder of the world. That balance of $4 million, remembering we're 10 years down the track here, you've taken 1.7 off the top, you got $4 million sitting in Bitcoin. For the next 10 years, even if Bitcoin's CAGR, compound annual growth rate, drops to half what we started with, the 50%, and it goes to 25%. Guess what the balance is going to be in 10 years? That 10 years, ensuing 10 years, so in 10 years, you've got the 5.7, you take 1.7, you've got 4 million left. The following 10 years that $4 million is sitting in there while you're out traveling the world, enjoying yourself, that has now become, at 25% CAGR, it has become $37 million. Now, I'm not sure about you, but that is a financial legacy. Whichever way you look at it, you can cut the number in half if you like. You can take $10 million off the top and buy yourself a beautiful apartment if you like. Whatever you do, whichever way you look at this, because there is a school of thought that Bitcoin's CAGR, after about 10 to 15 years from now, it is going to start to level out. But not now. We are only at 5% adoption. The biggest pools of capital on earth are coming for Bitcoin. It is a fixed, finite asset. There is 19.8 million Bitcoin out of the 21 million that there'll ever be that is already to market, that has already been mined. There's not a lot of Bitcoin available. This is why time is of the essence. This is why Bitcoin's growth is going to continue to escalate. Will it pull back over short periods? Of course it will. It can pull back 20%, 30%, 40% tomorrow. It could do that. I've been through cycles where it's done that. Have I cared? Absolutely not. Why? Because I'm playing the long game. And every time Bitcoin has a pullback like that, guess what? Bitcoin's on sale. And so I use that as an opportunity to deploy more, to just keep reducing my cost base, and life's good. I'm playing the long game. I'm playing the multi-generational wealth game, and I really believe that you should too. If your time horizon is less than 4 years, Bitcoin's probably not for you. But if you're looking to set yourself up for retirement and to leave a financial legacy for your family, then Bitcoin is definitely the asset you need to be paying attention to right now and learning about self-custody. Self-custody, air-gapped wallets, Bitcoin only, open source. So important. And these are the other conversations that I have with people every single week on my one-on-one Zoom calls. We go through that. I tell you what I'm doing. I make recommendations based on where you're at, and then you can go from there. So I want to leave it there today. I hope you got some value from today's video. Please leave your comments below. If you need to book a call with me, please don't hesitate. You'll get so much value from a session with me. I promise you that. You'll see a link in the show notes below. Have a great day. I'll see you in the next one. This is Zane signing out. Bye for now.